Happy Sunday, everybody. Buckeye Piper. Thought I'd come on and tell a sea story. Couple minute sea story. I won't keep you long. 320, 7 Series 3. You know what I always say, Eddie Gray at the Pipe Milk's your man for these. Does a fantastic job. And I love the 9 mils, man. I love the 9 mils, especially when I'm smoking something like I'm smoking tonight, which is plum pudding special reserve. So when I cut that off and I crumble it, it gets pretty crumbly. Uh, that way I'm not sucking anything up the. Usually it doesn't matter, it doesn't, but the filter just helps all the more not suck something up. Let this dry about 3 hours tonight. Had a bowl of tobacco earlier today that I didn't let dry enough, and that's just the worst in my opinion. Something that's a little too moist, hard to keep lit, it's bitey, just hate it. I'd rather smoke too dry than too moist. This one's about right. In my arm glass, Mrs. Buckeye got those for me for Christmas this year. Doing the last of the, basically Mrs. Buckeye threatened me. She didn't threaten me, but she said, you need to get some of this scotch out of here. Quit drinking up all your good scotch and get some of this other stuff out that's a little bit here, a little bit there. So this is my last snort of double black Johnny. I've already been told that I can't solely drink Johnny Gold. We'll see. I'm going to drink a lot of Johnny Gold. Johnny Gold is the best, in my opinion. So I want to tell a story tonight about crossing the Atlantic Ocean. So the year was 1993, and I had been on a Mediterranean cruise for a month and a half, doing drug ops in 92, the summer. Here we were, headed off for a 6-month Mediterranean cruise, and we were supposed to cruise on the USS Seattle. However, they failed their, what do I want to call it? I wasn't a shipboard guy, I was an Airedale, but they failed their qualifications, pre-cruise qualifications, whatever they call those. So they weren't eligible. They had a lot of things wrong with the ship. They weren't eligible to cruise. So the Milwaukee stepped in and took us over for the first couple 3 months, and then we crossed deck to the Seattle for the rest of the cruise. But we crossed the Atlantic on the Milwaukee, AOR 2, an oiler. I was logistics for the helicopter squadron, so we weren't ship's company. We would attach. We flew 2 CH-46 Delta C Knights, the tandem rotor. We did vertical replenishment, which was, if you ever see those pictures of helicopters with cargo nets, the double tandem rotor helicopters with cargo nets, flying stuff over to the carriers and the smaller ships, that's what our job was. We would transport anything from food, milk, mail, passengers, bombs, missiles. You know, we carried all that on the oiler, plus 5 million gallons of diesel and a couple million gallons, I think, of JP5. We were a setting bomb. You know, we always joked about that, like if they hit us with a rocket, man, everything on this ship is just highly explosive. We were the ship that the carrier and the other cruisers and frigates and everybody would pull alongside to do underway replenishment or unrep. And we did the vertical replenishment or the vert rep. We flew so as the ships pulled alongside, the ship's company would basically fire over this gun with this big monkey ball on the end with basically it was just a line. And they would pull the line across, and then here come the big fuel lines, and they would basically, male coupling into the female coupling. They would hook them in, and we just start pumping gas. We were, and literally, an at-sea gas station. Now the cool part of that is being the supply ship. We typically were never out more than a couple weeks at the longest stretch. There was a couple times we were, but very rare were we out that long because we had to go in and get new fuel and new JP5, new diesel, pick up food, passengers, all kind of stuff to ferry back out to the fleet. So a lot of times, even if it was just a day or a night, we'd be able to sneak off the ship, whether it would be Suda Bay or whether it would be, the air base was Sigonella, but I don't know where they pulled in Sicily. But a lot of times we'd fly into the air base for the night, get barracks rooms, drink, party, have fun. That's not what I want to talk about, although it's good stuff. March of '93, crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Wicked, wicked storms in the Atlantic in the spring. And these were just hellacious storms. Again, we weren't ship's company. We were the dudes that flew on and, hung out for 6 months and then flew off. And we didn't live on a ship. We lived in barracks or houses or whatever as I progressed up the ranks. But we hit this storm in March of '93. And I will tell you, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. Usually the ships are pretty good about being able to go around a storm. This one was so massive that we just tried to find the best way to get the least impact in the storm. When you cross the Atlantic, everything has to be tied down. Things will slide across the deck. I mean, literally, it'll kill you. Toolboxes, things like that, if you don't have them secured properly, you take a big roll, man, you could kill a person. I'm literally. And so everything was secured down. We thought, man, we hit these freaking waves. We were taking rolls in excess of 25, 29 degrees. The biggest one they said, if I remember right, was 36 degrees. The ship would have capsized at 45 degrees. We were 9 degrees away from capsizing. That would have killed easily all of us on board, which was probably 550 to 600 of us. It broke off the Sea Whiz, the close, what is Sea Whiz? Close something weapon systems. I can't remember now. CIWS, Sea Whiz. Close intercept weapon systems or whatever. Basically a little R2-D2 looking dude that are on ships. Fires, it's more than 50 cal, but anytime they fired, it's just like, the whole ship would shake. And basically what would happen is a missile would come in and that thing would train on the biggest piece, next biggest, and it'd move all around. Awesome. But we broke all the mounts off of those. All the 50 cal gun mounts got broken. We weren't allowed outside. In fact, the ship secured for 3 days, 2.5 to 3 days. Chow was nothing. They had cold cuts out for folks and basically told everybody just stay in bed unless you were standing a watch. For us Airedales, you can't fly in that. No way in hell. And a lot of times we didn't fly across in the Atlantic too much anyway, because usually we were in a hurry to get across in those days. Sometimes we flew, but um, we basically stayed in bed for 2 or 3 days. You'd have the patches you could put behind your ear, eating saltine crackers. You just feel like hell. Just imagine, I mean, literally, imagine you're sitting where you are right now and the room tilts 25 to 36 degrees this way. And then tilts back 25 to 36 degrees that way. Now, I didn't mind the side to side as much. That never got me. What made me sick is when we would pitch. And literally, you could be walking a four ship going to the front of the ship, and literally it would lift you up, and when it slammed down, feel like you were floating, and then you whack, slam you down, and you'd hit with force. I mean, it was no pleasure cruise, pardon the pun. Long story short, we made it across, had to go into port, get a lot of stuff fixed. Helicopters were safe. Nobody was really injured. A lot of stuff slid around. We tied most of it down, so we felt pretty good. All in all, really got lucky for what we went through and the little bit of damage on the outside on the weather decks. We were pretty lucky. But that's my story for today. That is Buckeye Sea story, crossing the Atlantic Ocean, March of '93 for a 6-month Mediterranean cruise. Now, once you got to the Med is glass, and you don't even have to tie anything down. You barely feel that you're on water once you hit the Med. Atlantic, different story. North Atlantic, very different story. And I didn't do much in the North Atlantic, so thank goodness. But that's the sea story for today. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you stuck with me. Wishing you all the blessings in the world. Pay it forward and take care of someone. Take care of each other. And we'll catch you next time. Have a great Sunday.